And we are live. Welcome to Winning Mood, short, sharp, strongest SuperCoach and punting advice for the NRL week ahead. I'm Jacob Winn from the TryPod. 7 straight years of free winning tips, although it hasn't been an 8th year of winning tips. I'll get to that. But I'm joined by Tim Moodie. He's doing a bit better than me, and he's the 2021 World SuperCoach champion. We're live every single week to share as much as we can with you, with each other, and always under 20 minutes. How you going, Tim?
I'm doing well, man. I had a good week. SuperCoach was good, so life is good. Look, I was one of the fortunate people to captain Hines last week. There was a lot of captains that went, quite poorly. So that was allowed me to sort of creep up in the ranks a little there. I think that's really important this year, and we'll touch on that a bit more about captaincy choices. I think nailing them is going to be more important than any year I can think of.
I know you're not meaning to rub it in, but talking about captaincy, can you guess who my captain was last week?
Oh, have you got Cody Walker?
No, I can't imagine he did too well. But, Latrell had to be a horror story for a few people. I mean, at least he scored a try, but off after that, and now I'm in a conundrum, which I was going to ask you about. But let's talk a little bit more about your round 5 before we look ahead. And I'll put your team up on the screen. So how'd you score, and where are you tracking in the overall standings?
So I scored 1264. It managed to shoot me up quite a fair bit. Yeah, I was sitting at about 20,000th prior to that, and I'm now 6,735th. So I'm, around the mix. It's good.
Yeah, that's really good.
10 out of 10 of my cash leagues as well, which is good. So it's always good signs. My trades I made last week, I was really tossing up all week. I was pretty close to selling Castoni Staggs. I did sort of recommend a lot of people on this, maybe he looks like he is a red light and a sell for me. So sorry to anyone who did sell him. I did end up holding him. I do backflip sometimes, so I apologize for that. I don't mean to be deceptive for anyone who gets upset. There was the way I looked at it, I decided, look, there were so many players in my side that I wanted to hold. I find it hard to sell players sometimes. And so I looked at Billy Smith, who wasn't playing, and Amon, who's coming off the bench. I thought I'll sell both of those guys, and I was able to turn that into Talakai, who I was sitting on the fence about. Now, he only scored 59, which I'm reasonably happy with. He's in the centers. That's all right. When he has the big games, they're going to be big scores. And I desperately need players in my side that I can sell. I get very attached to them. So I look at my side, and apart from a few of the cashies, like I'm looking forward to being able to sell the 2 Kings, maybe upgrading Talakai at some point, the halves at some point, and the centers except for the Penrith boys. But a lot of them I want to hold on to. So I find it hard to find trades each week. There'll be plenty of people I want to bring in, but I'm like, who am I going to cut? I don't want to cut guys I think that are keepers. So this week I'm leaning towards no trades, but we'll get to that in the red light, green light, I guess.
You've explained that previously, that there's the strategy and how the pricing works with Talakai, right? Like, you're not phased that he did mediocre on the weekend for himself, and you said you got him a week ago and you're looking forward to selling him, and that's because 2 weeks ago he exploded, right? So his price is going to go up. So regardless, as long as he goes okay, you can't really lose out of that scenario, can you?
Yeah, well, he's still got a negative BE of -6. So if he just takes the field and scores a point, he's making some money. So that's great. He might lose his spot if he, doesn't perform well. I'm a bit worried about him coming up against Melbourne. He might, if he, has a poor defensive game, maybe he loses his spot there. But look, it's his spot to lose, I think. But yeah, as I said, there's plenty of people I don't want to sell. I can't sell for Feeder. I couldn't sell Haas. I couldn't sell Kickout. So there's a lot of these players I don't want to sell. Just because I'm attached to them, you know what I mean? So when I can get a guy like Talakai I'm not too attached to in my side, I'm happy to have them so I can move them on to someone else that is a keeper later on.
And a question just popped up. We might try and answer a few questions in a row. So send through any questions that you do have for the King, guys. We appreciate it. We'll get to them. Another name that I noticed in your team, and I think he had his best outing of 2022, was Cam Munster, which leads to my question. The trend that I'm noticing more broadly with the games is the big contenders maybe starting to separate themselves, and we're getting from a betting perspective, bigger lines and super short favourites. Do you need to be conscious of that? And do you need to try and build a team that has a lot of players from these sides that really turn it on? And the other side of the coin is, do you need to avoid players that are in some of these deadbeat sides?
Well, what I found particularly last year, you did need to target guys that were in those better sides, or the sides that were able to put on a lot of points. So I was targeting, a lot of the Manly guys. So I had Cherry Evans at some point with Turbo, and both of the wingers, Saab and Garrick. And it was a bit of a risky one with particularly Saab, because he can score 9 or he can get you 100 if Turbo's putting him over. So yeah, I took the risk on him and played him on matchup last year. This year, I think it's still important to pick players that are more in the better sides. I always lean that way. I sort of tend to not pick up some of those guys like the Nanais or the who was the other bloke that was popular, Hiku, the other week from the Cowboys, just because I don't like those sides as much, and I don't think they pan so well for SuperCoach. But look, sometimes you can get guys that aren't in great sides that like TPJ, for example. I think he's a great buy, not in one of the greatest sides, but it depends on position, I think, and it is sort of subject to that. But I'd always lean to a guy in a better side. Munster, you mentioned, had a good week last week. I think he actually had a better week previously. I think 2 weeks. Yeah, he had a score of 121 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, he's looking good. Big competition between him and Brown, I should say, from the Eels. He's looking quite good in that position as well. And I think Cody Walker is very, very due to come good. So I've encouraged people to pick him up last week. He didn't go great. I would still encourage you to pick him up this week if you want to do it. I still think that he's going to get on a run and start, but probably wait a week on Cody. He'll be like 400 and something K when he was like 700 preseason. So if you could wait one more week, that's probably ideal.
And Souths have a really favourable draw, and you actually would think Latrell out is going to reduce the potency of their attack overall, but it's going to actually give him an even bigger role, especially considering like no Reynolds there. Like now it's truly his team, and he's going to do all the ball playing off the back of any momentum they gain. So you would think that if he can find his form, he's got the keys. He's going to get ample opportunities, that's for sure. Let's talk strategy, and let's talk about round 6 and who you're looking at. So let's play squad game, red light, green light. Take it away.
All right. So this week, as I sort of hinted before, I'm really looking towards holding myself. I won't be looking to make any trades, I don't think. There's a slight possibility I might get tempted to bring in Cooler, who's one of my only green lights for this week. Look, he's replacing Morgan Harbour, who's got COVID. However, I think he should beat out that Tui Pelotu, who's on the wing for them. So he might even pick up the fullback spot next week when the side shifts around a bit, and maybe Garrett goes back to the win. I'm not sure, but I think Cooler will find his way into that side still. Seems like the preferred option. So he is going to go up in price this week. So he might be my only green light for me to pick up. There are plenty of other good buys out there this week, but none of them are screaming buy me for me. So I'm going to move on to the orange lights, which is Teddy. I don't want anyone to sell him. I really recommend don't sell him. He has underperformed, but he's a proven gun. The draw is very soft. You can't keep a good man down for too long. Teddy will have a big weekend this weekend, I believe. I think selling him's crazy, especially for the likes of Taff, who's just a rookie. You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of cash generation to be made there, but in a key position like fullback, I think you want 2 guns. That's my other orange light. Blake Tafe, wait a week. He's not going to go up in price this week. We can assess him again this week, see how good he looks. If he looks great and he's scoring well enough, look, maybe we find a spot for him and we try put him in at halfback, which is also available in the dual position. But Schneider, I've got there, is really looking good too, and he's still making money, so it's tough. Payne Haas is another orange. Hold, don't sell him, only a week. Red lights, I would say to sell Nanai at this point. He's 457K, his BE is 79. You can get better options now. He's made some good money, and he's got those low scores in him when he's not getting the tries.
And you made a good point about Nanai. When he was really trendy, he had scored 4 tries in 2 weeks. They were all off kicks, and that's just not something that you can rely on week in, week out. So that's going to be naturally quite variable, and I don't think he has scored a try since then. Naturally, his scoring comes down. So that's
Latrell
important to
being the
see,
other
I
one.
guess. Yes,
sorry,
and
Kate,
Latrell, I was going to ask you about that because now you've mentioned a few fullbacks, so you've done well. You've covered Khan's question, which we appreciate, and he asked whether he should dump Teddy, and you've said you wouldn't. It's interesting, though, that Hines is eligible as a fullback because there are so many gun halves you could have. If you moved Hines to fullback, that would be an option. I'm in that same boat that I've got to sell Latrell. So who's the fullback out there that people should be looking to pick up?
Look, if you don't have Pappenhausen, he's the number one priority. You got to get him in your side. Look, I can understand people who are impatient with Teddy. He's big dollars. They want more. They're thinking about selling Hines. Look, there are two moving Hines down to his position. I can understand people wanting to pick up like two guns like Mitch Moses and Hines, or some people wanting to even go early this week on Cleary, even though he's going to lose quite a fair bit of money. I wouldn't sell Teddy for Cleary or Teddy for Moses. I just feel like it's really sideways. Teddy will come good and you'll regret it. The thing is, I think there's so many people selling Teddy. He's a very, very popular sell this week that holding him is actually a pod move. When he starts killing it, people are going to hate it. And he can rack up points pretty easily just with his tackle bust. He hasn't been getting as involved as we'd like, but it's coming. It's coming.
And that won't be the last time we mention his name either to spoil ahead. So we think he will have a good weekend. Are there any other topics? You're on several SuperCoach shows, which go a lot more in-depth and a lot longer than this one. So I want to give you an opportunity to mention those shows again. And is there any other like big topics that took up a lot of discussion this week that you can give us a brief version on?
A shout out to the other podcasts, of course, the SuperCoach Experience podcast and SuperCoach Champions podcast. The NRL SuperCoach Champions podcast, I believe it is. But yeah, you'll find me there as well. Look, a bit of the hot topics obviously being whether or not to sell Tedesco, which we've touched on. So we'll say if people really want to do it and they've got plans and they've got some sort of structure, they've got an idea of what they want to do it. But if you're umming and ahhing, my gut feeling is don't do it. So that's where I lean. Also, too, another one has been when to get Cleary. Do you get him this week? Some people are keen on getting him this week against the Broncos with no pain. Haas could kill them. I think he's looking great. He took the line on a bit more. He's making some pretty big tackles and smashed a few people last week. So I don't think he's looking to, staying out of it or anything like that. I'm more inclined to want to let him drop in price, even though I think he's going to have a big weekend this weekend. I'm tempted to get him before Origin. There's a lot of people thinking they can wait till after Origin. I'm sort of thinking maybe next week, the week after for me with Cleary. That's probably been pretty much the hot topics. Other than that, just, look, they try to be faithful.
But the thing is, right, you would already have Jerome Hughes, would you?
No.
Okay. You've mentioned, you're liking some of those Storm. Like, does it matter if you've already got a gun halfback, then you don't get Cleary, or should you be trying to have two because they're so
I think we
ideally
Cleary's probably going to prove to us this weekend. I think that we'll all be probably targeting him the week after. That's my gut vibe. He's going to have a big one. So yeah, look, I think last year he was scoring hundreds every week with ease. So these last two scores aren't really a good reflection of Nathan Cleary and SuperCoach. I don't think he's going to stay at these sort of mediocre 50s. I think we're going to get him back up in the hundreds real soon. So I think he's pretty much the best SuperCoach player at the moment now that Travojevic is out, with Pappy as him and Pappy are probably tight 1 and 2. So yeah, I definitely.
I've got one more question for you before you take over. But what about matchups? You mentioned Nico Hines, like you captained him last week, but you wouldn't captain him this week, I imagine, knowing that he's got a really tough opponent. But I mean, do you still start him because he's one of your most expensive players and he's still going to go okay? Yep. One of our best bets is actually the Storm this weekend. We think they could really restrict the Sharks, and that game looks like a bit of a blockbuster Saturday night, but the Sharks have faced nobody near the Storm yet. It may not be that close. And does that factor into your other personnel decisions as well when teams play against your Penriths and against your Melbournes that you
big
wouldn't
time.
want to play them that week?
Yeah, big time. So I've got Stags and Cobbo who did well last week. I'm probably going to have to play one of them. I don't want to play both because it's Panthers. I really think the Panthers defense is that good that it just really restricts the SuperCoach scoring. Same as Hines. Wouldn't be confident captaining him. Like, I mean, he still could score a good 70 points because he's in everything. But I think the Storm, more than anyone, will know how to shut him down. They are experts at shutting down key players, and being that he's one of their boys, they'll know how to do that. So, yeah, look, I'd be looking for – I'm tempted to go Teddy myself as a captain this week. I'm not in love with it yet. I've still got to really assess it. If I had the Para boys, Moses or Brown, I'd be going those, or even a Gutho if I had one of those. So they're good shouts in the last Sunday game. But, yeah, I think matchup's important. You've got to look at that too for when your players are going up against those tough sides, particularly Penrith and Melbourne.
Absolutely. All right, Timmy, take over now and begin by letting people know how they can win a jersey. There's already a couple of people that are a step ahead and putting their guesses in, and we've given out we've given away a bunch of jerseys this season, so get amongst it. Good fun, guys.
Yeah, I think people are crazy not to be getting involved in this. It's a free jersey for simply just having a guess. Like, if I wasn't bloody part of this, I'd be doing it every weekend. Yeah, look, this weekend, the game we've got, it is the Knights and the Dragons on the Sunday game. Just got to pick which player you think will score and the minute they will score in, just to help us differentiate of people picking the same ones, who gets closer. Also, too, we've got a special bet brought to you by TopSport this week. It's our 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Last week, we were good enough to have it refunded. Okay, yeah. So we've got Alex Johnson this week. We've got Xavier Coates and Teddy. I've got Teddy and Johnson as my picks. Teddy's going to bounce back. I feel like Cody will come good, and Johnson will be the recipient of some of that Cody love. And you've gone with Xavier Coates, which I can't argue against. The Storm side looks like he's probably due to score every second week at least. He didn't score last week.
Yeah, and I kind of made the case for that already, thinking that the Storm should be successful, even though the Sharks have played well. I think some people may be overrating the Cronulla Sharks because they've looked good in defence, but who have they looked good against? The Dragons, the Knights, and don't even get me started on the Tigers last weekend. So it's a different animal they come up against, although a Storm is not an animal, but a different beast, that's for sure. So I think Xavier Coates, the big chance to score every time he steps on the field. So that's our 2 out of 3, which we've now had 2 of them voided. One was voided because of a player withdrawn, and last week voided because Wonga Blake, who was under $2 to score, and we had $2.75 last week, and he went off with a knee injury 20 minutes in, and TopSport was kind enough to refund that. So that shows what kind of bookie they are. They'll look after you, and that was a bad beat. And luckily not a beat. We got our money back for that one. So we can maybe reinvest this week because, again, I think we've got 3 really solid shots.
That's what I was going to say.
So excited for that.
I did a really crazy thing and spent my refund on some Justin Thomas in the bloody golf because Cooper Cronk tipped it. So can you give me good tips? I'm going to stop following Cooper Cronk. Give me some good tips for this weekend, mate.
All right, well, I said at the top, my tips this season have not been good so far. I've had a really tough start to the season, but still confident in the method that has worked for a lot of years, and haven't changed that, and going to take the Raiders at home to flip the script on the Cowboys. We saw what happened in round 2, but I think that some of those factors are going to flip into the Raiders' favour, and off back-to-back losses with revenge factor, they'll be too good for the Cows, and we played the -4. We're also taking the Titans, who have not lost a game by more than 6 this season. Every one of their games go down to the wire, but we're playing them +6.5 in Manly, and I think that people maybe are overestimating how good Manly are because they played so well last week without Turbo. That doesn't mean they don't miss Turbo. They're still going to miss him. And I touched on the Storm. So that's hopefully the 3 sides I think can provide the most value. And you got to get us out of here in 20 seconds, Timmy.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Give us a like, tell your friends, share if you need be. Also, tags in the questions if you've tags in the comments if you've got any questions. Finally, if you're betting, do it responsibly, and we hope we've put you in a winning mood. Catch you later. Good luck with your SuperCoach this week.